you?
Wonderful.
Good. Well, I'm so glad that you came. And for those of you who don't know me, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've actually been an organic gardener for over 50 years. I grew up on an organic farm in Michigan, and we raised all our own food, our meats, our fruits, our vegetables. We canned, we baked. We basically didn't have to buy anything. I think we bought milk and sugar and flour. I think that's all we bought. And so I started, well, basically I went to nursing school, but I didn't like what I was learning. I mean, I loved the chemistry and the anatomy and all that fun stuff, but I totally disagreed with, you know, the medications and the surgeries and the way they fed their people. So I started studying alternative medicine, and that was 47 years ago. And I have kept up in touch with that for many, many years, and that is totally what my passion is, because I had an unhealthy family. My 3 aunts were really, really sick with diabetes and heart, kidney failure and all that kind of stuff, and it's horrible to watch people that you love die. So I really, really wanted to help them, but they followed the medicine. And so what I do now is I teach people how to grow their own food organically, even here in Florida where we don't even have dirt. But I'm also, I'll go into it a little bit later, I'm also doing some expansion and doing webinars and online classes on the internet. So I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. So how many of you are currently gardening? Good, that's almost half, that's pretty good. Now, how many of you have tried to garden and been a miserable failure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, you know, I've gardened in many different states and been very successful, and my first 2 gardens here were miserable failures. So I had to figure out how to do it. And then I had gardens here in Clearwater, and do you remember the first gardens I had? Yeah. So I had a teeny-weeny little lot, and I had over 40 fruit-bearing plants. I had herbs, vegetables, in-ground beds, above-ground beds, walkways. I had a gazebo with a little fish pond. It was quite nice. And I would invite people over to see my gardens, and many of them would look at them. They'd walk around and go, "Jane, you can't grow gardens like this in Florida. You must be using magic." Yeah. And so that's why I call my products Garden Magic, because they really do help you be a very successful gardener. So,
even without soil.
Well, you have to either create it or buy it. Yeah, because soil holds the moisture and it holds the nutrients, and that's what plants need. If you plant in sand, it doesn't matter what kind of food you give it, because we get these torrential rains and it'll just wash out, and so they all die. So, hello. There's a sign-in sheet if you can sign in. And so what I'd like you guys to do is read this poster. Can everybody see it? And what year was that?
1936.
Yeah, so the government has known since 1936 that the soil's depleted across the United States, and that the food is starving us no matter how much we eat, and it can't be remedied until the soil's brought back under proper mineral balance. I think they've done anything about that?
70 years.
No, it's actually gotten much worse. But that's what I do, is I teach people how to remineralize your soil, how to make it alive and healthy. So the scariest part about this is this last line. Lacking vitamins, the system can make use of minerals, but lacking minerals, vitamins are useless. Every system of our body depends upon having minerals in it. So if it's not in the soil, it's not in the food, that means when we eat it, it's not in our bodies, and our bodies can't function properly. So if you've ever looked on the internet to see which country has the most disease on the planet, guess who wins? We are number 1. It's quite disgusting. And so Shortly after this, World War II broke out. And at the end of World War II, there were warehouses full of bomb-making equipment, and the government wanted to liquidate it. So they said, sell it. Well, who's going to buy bomb-making equipment unless you're a terrorist, right? So they were trying to figure out who's going to buy this. So one day, soldiers walked through the compound, and they noticed a bunch of barrels were being stored outside. They were leaking, and the weeds were growing huge. So they said, let's sell this to the farmers. How many minerals does it take to make a bomb? Remember the Oklahoma bombing?
3.
Oh, fertilizer.
3. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, man-made from petroleum products, so they go boom. Okay. So you heard me say man-made from petroleum products. All the fertilizers out there, except for the ones, the good plant food that I sell, are man-made from petroleum products. They say 10-10-10 or 10-20-10. That means nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And so, if you were a plant, would you like me to give you some poisonous fertilizer?
No.
Man-made from petroleum products? No, it's not what a plant would want. So that's what they started doing. Actually, they started promoting it to the farmers, but the farmers weren't interested. So they started subsidizing the farmers to use it. So they're actually paying. Back then, they started paying the farmers to use this fertilizer, and they're still paying them today to use that.
Lucrative for them to do that? I
Pardon?
mean, if I were a farmer and you were paying me to use a certain fertilizer, if I didn't make money, then I wouldn't use it, do they? Do they get enough to?
Oh, yeah, they get enough. Yeah. That's one reason why there's so much high fructose corn syrup in everything, because they're subsidizing the farmers to grow genetically modified corn. And what are they going to do with all that corn?
It's in the fuel.
Right, they make fuel out of it, they feed it to the cows and the chickens, and yeah, but there's so much of it that they make the high fructose corn syrup and put it in everything, which is killing us. So, yeah.
poison.
Right. So, how many of you remember the periodic table from chemistry class? Yeah. There's 118 minerals on the periodic table. Now, some of them are gases, like helium, that we don't need in the soil, and some of them are radioactive that we don't want in the soil. So how many minerals do you think should be in the soil to have healthy plants?
50, 60.
More. Much higher.
80.
Higher.
All of them.
No, 90.
90. Oh.
Yep, 90, 91, 92 is in the research. Those are the 3 numbers they come up with. So plants actually need 90 minerals to be healthy, just like we need 90 minerals to be healthy. So imagine that this table here is your garden, and you've planted plants in it, and somebody said to you, oh, here's some Miracle-Gro. This works really, really good. Plants love it. So you put Miracle-Gro on there. Now it has maybe 8 minerals, again, man-made from petroleum products. How healthy are those plants going to be if they need 90 minerals? Not very, right? So the first thing Mother Nature does is sends in the bugs, take out those unhealthy plants. So the other thing that happened during World War II is Germany developed nerve gas. At the end of the war, our scientists studied it, and they found out if they diluted it way, 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 way down, and they sprayed it on those plants, it would kill the bugs, but it wouldn't kill the plants. So now what do we have? Well, this was a pesticide to start with. But it was, so we have weak and unhealthy plants covered with poisons. That was our first pesticide. So then Mother Nature sends in the molds, the mildews, the funguses, the diseases, the weeds, take out those unhealthy plants. And that's why there's so many poisons now on our food, because the plants are so unhealthy, and they never look at what the cause is, they just treat the symptoms. All right, so that's why. Now, are you all aware of the Dirty Dozen of Foods? Who is not? Who's never heard of the Dirty Dozen of Foods? Okay, well, good. I'm going to teach you something. So every beginning of the year, the FDA tests the produce in the grocery stores across the United States looking for toxins. A group called the Environmental Working Group takes that data and categorizes it from the most toxic to the least toxic, and they release it as the Dirty Dozen and the Safest 15. So here's that list. Let's turn it around so you can see it better. This list, the Dirty Dozen has at least 47 to 67 toxins on them that can't be washed off, peeled off, or soaked off.
I knew about that. I just didn't know
What it was called. Okay, good. Now this is last year's list, so strawberries is actually the first one this year. It's the most toxic thing you can eat in the grocery store. Now this is non-organic. Okay. So then the safest 15, you can lower your herbicides and pesticides going into your body by 92%, but it's still grown in commercial soil and it's still not nutritious. And some of it, like sweet corn and pineapples and papayas and some of the other things, they're genetically modified. And they don't.
too? Pineapple too? I knew about corn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they don't have to even tell us, you know. That's what's bad about it.
Right, Monsanto.
Yeah, yeah. So, the interesting thing about the Dirty Dozen is that's like the thing that most of us eat. That's our favorite food, right?
Sure.
And you can't go to a restaurant without getting that.
That's right.
So, I just don't go to restaurants. There's very few that I will go to. So,
Which ones will you go to?
there's one downtown Clearwater, Carolyn's Kitchen. It's all organic. There's 3 or 4 organic restaurants in Dunedin. There's one up on St. Pete Beach called, it's on Corey Avenue, Jackie's. Yeah, yeah. Now, everything she has is not organic, so I just, if I go there, I just say what's not organic or what is, so that I know what to order. And then there's a couple other, but there's not a lot of choices. Of course, there's Nature's Food Patch. So anyway, what I tell people is you can avoid these or you can buy these organic, but the safest way for you to eat the best is for you to grow it yourself. I had a woman ask me a couple of days ago, I was giving a talk at a health fair, and she said, well, what about getting organic from other countries? And what I told her was, imagine you're a farmer, you're in Brazil, you have a beautiful big organic farm, and I even fly to Brazil and check it out because I want to know. You have a beautiful, beautiful farm, delicious fruits and vegetables. I go, I want to sell your food. So I place a huge order with you, you pack it up, and you send it to me. What does it have to go through to get to me? And what do they do to it? They irradiate it, they probably spray it because they don't want any bugs leaving the country.
Or coming in to the U.S.
Well, right. They don't want any bugs leaving their country going into the United States.
So they destroy it.
They destroy it, yeah. So and if it says organic and it's from another country, we don't know what their standards are. You know? Here, have a seat right here. And, yeah.
Do you know what the standards are here? I mean, if I'm getting some organic stuff from Minnesota, it's got to go in a truck. I'm sure they're little bugs. And once I bought some broccoli, this is many, many years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, from Nature's Food Patch, and it had all these little nests of some kind of thing, and I brought it back and said, I just can't. I mean, what do other people do? Well, they eat it. Well, I washed it.
It's extra protein.
There you go.
Had I only known. Well, I didn't know you then, Jay. What can I tell you?
Well, organic means no herbicides, no pesticides.
Yeah, but do they spray the trucks or things coming? I
How
mean,
do
there
we
was
know?
talk years ago that those big tankers had not only like gas in it, but then they shipped like orange juice in it, you know.
Or milk, or
maybe
I know,
years ago. I don't know what they're doing now.
I know.
A lot of these things.
Because I haven't seen any bugs, and I can't believe
Right.
such a thing.
Yeah, it's hard to say because we have no control and they don't have to tell us.
We better get used to it. I heard that in the future, maybe 100 years from now, we will be eating insects.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's our future.
Well, I have something to look forward
Because
to.
we're not talking dioxins.
Chocolate covered.
You were talking about a lot of chemicals that break down and may or may not have residues. And are not systemic necessarily either.
Well, how do we know that they break down? They used to say, 20, 30 years ago, oh, Roundup is so safe, it totally breaks down within days.
Well, it's
Just
who
use
said
it.
It's
Huh?
who said it? Which chemist?
Monsanto.
Or was it Monsanto?
They wouldn't lie to you.
Right,
But
right.
there are chemists, I have chemist friends who don't necessarily lie.
All right,
They do.
but do they totally know?
Well, he's passed away now.
Okay. It's a really tough thing to know. I mean, how do you know that it really breaks down? I mean, look at that. They're telling everybody use this reclaimed water. But they also put signs up in the neighborhood going, reclaimed water is being used, beware. I mean, they don't put beware on it, but that's why they're putting it there. And they also tell you don't allow your children or your pets to walk in it or lick their feet if they do.
Yeah, but the mailman can't.
Don't eat anything it's touched. I mean, how safe is that?
Right.
So it's a tough kind of thing to know. That's why, remember this, it says it can't be remedied till our food comes into proper mineral balance. If you're not bringing the soil into proper mineral balance and adding the microorganisms and the funguses and stuff that should be in the soil, you don't have healthy soil and you don't have living soil in order to grow good food. So just because it says organic, it doesn't mean they're remineralizing the food. So if you know of a farmer or somebody that is willing to share their organic food with you, the question I would ask is, how do you keep the bugs out of your garden? Do you know how to keep bugs out of your garden?
You don't.
What?
Marigolds.
You don't keep the bugs out.
Yes, you do.
But you do keep
Prepare the soil properly.
Gotta put it
That's
aside.
all you have to do.
But I thought certain bugs are attracted to like very rich composty type of soil. Like those famous bugs that we have in Florida. First time I encountered one, I said, oh, that's what.
There's bugs that help break down the soil.
Yeah.
They don't eat our plants. They're breaking down
The soil.
the compost.
Mm-hmm.
The plant. Let me tell you something. A plant that is totally healthy, doesn't have any stress. The leaf will be a complex carbohydrate. Bugs will not attack it, neither will disease. But a plant that's under stress, it could mean too much water, it could be not enough water, it could mean too much sun, not enough sun. It could be various different things, but the most common one is lack of nutrients in the soil. That will turn into a simple sugar, and it will send out a fragrance to the bugs that say, come eat me, I'm sweet. So bugs and disease go after those unhealthy plants. So now I'm going to tell you how you prepare your soil and give it all the nutrients and everything it needs so that you don't have bugs. Because people say that to me all the time. They come and look at my garden and they go, how do you keep the bugs out? I prepare my soil properly. I feed my plants.
You don't
Now,
invite them.
huh?
You don't invite them.
Right, right. The plants don't invite them.
Do you have more pollinators also then?
Oh, sure, sure, yeah. So, it's kind of like if you had I had one woman come to me one day and she wanted to buy one of my fruit trees. And I was telling her about preparing the soil properly and watering it and this and that. She goes, I'm not going to water it. I said, what? No, once I plant something, it either lives or dies on its own. And I said, well, what do you feed it? Well, I'm not going to feed it. And I basically said to her, you know, if I had a little batch of kittens and you wanted one, and you weren't going to feed it or water it, I'm not going to give you my kitten. And I wouldn't sell her one fruit tree. Like, no, lady, go away, I don't even want to